I'm back. It's been a while since I've done a video. Unfortunately, I spent 3 days recording a video of how to enlarge a vintage dress, and my phone decided to delete half of the clips. So I'm going to try again. I was a little discouraged. I took a little break, but I'm back, and I have another dress to attempt it on. So I got this beautiful vintage number. Actually, I'm embarrassed to say probably over a year ago. It's been sitting in my repair pile waiting since. I'm hoping this shows up. You can see the neckline has pretty much disintegrated. It's going to need to be completely replaced. And actually quite a few of these. So I'm hoping I have enough fabric too. It used to fit me. It is now way too small. And the fabric's a little weak too, so I definitely don't want to be putting any extra stress on the waistline. So I'm going to be showing how we make this larger to fit. One thing about me, I don't like to have to go purchase fabric if I don't have to. I buy a lot of vintage fabric. I buy a lot of thrift store fabric. So I try to work with what I have. So I'm going to show you my process, and I'm sorry I totally blocked you. Let's see. All right, so I went through my stash of fabrics, and I'm sorry you won't see my head here, but I was trying to see what might go with this beautiful vintage, almost batik. I would say it's a batik fabric. And, you know, basically all I do is play around seeing, you know, I'm going to do this insert method that I do, where we're just going to try to enlarge from the side seams, although... yeah, I wish we could enlarge from the front seam, but I'm a little concerned that it is just not going to look right. So we're going to go from the sides and hope that everything places okay. And I think that is just, I don't know how well you can see it. I think that might just be a little too bold. I grabbed some muted greens, see if that might add a cool effect, because there's no way you're going to match your fabric exactly on a print. On a solid, you've got a lot more luck. I mean, it's okay. I'm sorry, the lighting is kind of, yeah. I thought maybe we could play with the brown undertones in the dress and maybe do something like this. But I think my concern with this is it's going to be very obvious adding to the dress and with the back straps. I don't think I like that. I think my winner is going to be, I have this beautiful batik. I actually used it on a hanging wall quilt that I made as a gift. Art quilt. I think this one's nice. It adds a little bit of a darker tone at the sides, which will hopefully give a slimming appearance to the body. And it kind of plays with those same undertones. So even though it's a little darker, I think it might work. I mean, I probably could run around for a few weeks trying to find the perfect fabric, but, you know, the whole point is just to save the dress from being trashed. So, and you know, we could really play this up by replacing this entire piece here, and that would lead into it, and I think that's going to give it a really coherent look, I hope, in the end, and maybe even add some piping. Maybe. So, depending on how much I have, too. So, let's get started. I'm going to show you what we need to do once you've picked your fabric. First things first. Hi. You're going to... So sorry, guys. I'm not a professional. All right. You're going to measure your waistline. And if you think the bust line is not going to fit, you're going to want to measure that, too. Then you're going to lay out your dress. And we're going to measure that portion of your dress and try to figure the difference that you're going to need to add into your dress. So I am going to let you watch along as I do this. I'm sorry you keep seeing me without my head, but this way you get an idea of what I'm doing. I just do the measure flat and double trick here. So I've got my waistline laid out. I go from one end of the waistline to the other. I kind of knew what size this was. It was my old size. Okay. Yep. Okay. And I'm just going to double check the bust measurement because we are going to be making inserts and we want them to be just right. And I feel like this is going to be a-okay up here. This is a pretty flexible bust line, and it has built-in cups. So I do feel that I really don't need to add to the bust line. So I may have just a sliver near the top. All right, I am going to need to add 4 inches to this dress, which means that I also need to incorporate some seam allowance. I'm going to divide the 4 by 2 because I'm doing pieces at both sides seam. So that's 2 inches. For inserting in here, let me see. I think I'm going to go with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It seems to be what was already in here. But that's usually a great rule of thumb, is to just follow along with what's in there. Yep, 1/2 inch. So I am going to need 1/2 inch on each side of those pieces. So I'm going to do 3 inches at the waistline for both pieces. So here's what I do. I've got my replacement fabric. I'm looking for my grain just to make sure I'm doing it right. We're going to be cutting along the grain because we want our stretch going crosswise, because the bulk of your stress on the fabric is going to be when you're wearing it. So your stretch, well, am I doing this right? Let me think this through. Yeah, your stretch should be going that way. All right. So I'm going to fold this so that it's doubled. Sorry for the pause. And working off the back of this fabric, it's just a little bit lighter for my drawing out, and I don't like to draw my lines on the front. So at the base, we know we need 3 inches. This is going to be your waistline seam. Oh, excuse me. All right. Doing just roughly. It's okay if it's a little bit over. I want the ease. I'll probably expand and contract some more. The nice thing about the way we do this, you can always take it back out if you fluctuate in size. So now, this is my old garment again. Sorry if it's too much green on green here, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm finding that side seam where we're inserting this fabric. And I want to measure how long this is. I also want to check. Okay, there is a facing in here, so I'll show you how to cut that too. Remember, we've got a 1/2 inch, so we're going to add a 1/2 inch at the bottom and a 1/2 inch at this top measurement. But right now, the length of the seam that we are inserting into is 8 inches. So adding your seam allowance at the bottom and the top, that's going to be 9. This is just my example. You'll be measuring on your own. I find the middle, so I know that's going to be about 1.5 here, of this 3-inch line that I drew of the add-on line. I like to mark it because I make a bit of a trapezoid, so I hope that's the right word. Okay, I'm going up 9 inches. I'm going to mark that center line at the 9. And now at the top bit here, depending on what you would add for your bust line, if you need to add 3 inches straight away, great. You're going to do a 3-inch rectangle by 9 inches. I don't need the additional up at the top, so I am just going to add, to keep it easier, I like to have something. I want this to be a completed line. So even if it's just a 1/2 inch sewing, I'm going to add 1.5 inches, because that'll leave just a 1/2 inch sewing to complete this illusion that we're creating on the dress. So I am going to put at that middle point I've marked my 0.75 and mark out to make a complete 1.5 inches. Mark the ends too, because I feel like it's not drawing very nicely. Now you're just going to connect your end points. This is going to create the perfect panel piece to insert to increase this size. I'm going to cut this out. I should have ironed my fabric first. You probably want to. This is kind of a rush deal. Like I said, I am so frustrated by the videos being deleted. Okay. Okay, perfect. So, you're left with 2 insert pieces. And the right sides obviously are this side. Although, I'm wondering if this faded side may even be better. No, I like the richness of this one. Okay, so now, some dresses are going to have a facing inside. It's the way a lot of them were finished. So you can see the back facing here. It folds over to the inside. This one's nicely finished to the dress. And then the front, because this one has built-in boning, so you can go braless with it, it's a little bit bigger. But I don't think I'm going to add on to that bra piece. So I'm going to make a facing to insert on here. And we're going to go about the same length as here, but adding the 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch again. So I'm going to measure this facing piece on the inside. I'm hoping you can see this. You can see where it ends right there, and then you've got your top edge. So let me just measure this piece. It's about 2 1/4. Yeah, 2 1/4. You're going to add 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. That makes 3 1/4. Now, we don't have to draft anything. You're simply going to take your pieces that you've already done. We're going to use those as a pattern piece. And here's what I like to do. I'm just going to trace about where I think, well, I'm going to make sure so I don't make a fool of myself tracing it wrong. 3 1/4. Yep. Okay. I'm just going to outline these. Oops. I know a lot of people create their pattern pieces on paper first. I'm kind of weird, and I just like to go right off the fabric. There we go. And now simply measure down 3 1/4. Oop. Let me straighten that line. Okay. Cut those out, and you've got your facing pieces. It's going to give it a very clean finish still. I like to make it as much like it originally was as possible, even if I'm changing out fabrics. Okay. Now that we have our pieces ready, we need to take apart these side seams. I need to replace straps, the neck straps. Oh my gosh, basically all the straps. I think I'm just going to replace them all since we're doing this, and this is what holds the dress onto your body. I'd rather have it replaced. I mean, there is just a lot of fray and stuff. So I'm going to get to work on this. I am just going to let the video record. The first thing I'm going to do is completely remove all of these pieces. If this is one of your first garment deconstructions, whatever you're working on, or even just you get kind of confused whenever you're taking a garment apart, I have the video to reference back to as I take this apart. That can be a great way to record yourself removing pieces so you can follow it backwards to put it back together. Or take pictures. There's nothing wrong with needing to document your steps. It's better than sitting there at the end with a ton of pieces in front of you not knowing how to put it back together. So I'm going to dive in. Enjoy watching along. You'll be able to see I'll do everything in front of the camera. A lot of tracing. I'm going to give this everything 1/2 inch seam allowances in case you're wondering how I'm adding to the fabric. So that's just what is inside this dress. So I'm going to follow along with that, and pretty sure all my pieces will be interfaced. I don't know if I'll record that part of it, but finally got one section off. I still have one more section to go, and I still have to take this apart, but I wanted to give one tip. When you're removing pieces from the dress, what I did was I just left an opening. I very carefully picked this out, but this may rip further now that we've let go of the seam. So I also just mark with my chalk about where it was, just so that I can have the same lineup just in case. And if you did unpick the entire upper seam, you would want this marking in there. So hopefully that's marking well. This is disintegrating, this dress. It is really falling apart. So I am going to stabilize everywhere that I can, that I'm keeping the old fabric on. I just really need to get a few wears out of this before it falls apart completely. It's just too cool, and I haven't gotten to wear it yet, and I spent money on it. So, all right. I am back. I am going to finish unpicking the rest, and then I'll come back and I will just let you watch how I lay it out and trace. So I'll be back in a while, back to picking. Change of plans. As I was trying to dissect the piece, it is in such bad shape. It is just, I cannot get it apart from the seam. It's just disintegrating as I'm trying to work. So instead, I'm going to get right into tracing, and I'm going to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance on each side of the piece I'm working on, since I cannot separate them so the seams are still folded in. So I will get to the tracing, and I'm actually going to work one side at a time, only because I'm worried I'm going to mix up the sides I'm working on, and my brain is tired and not working correctly, so it's just easier for me to take it apart one seam at a time. So this way at least I can show you 1/2 of the dress, and I can do the other half off, because you know you're just repeating the steps. So here we go. Okay, I finished my repairs, and I actually really am loving this contrasting fabric with it, and I think it's going to be even better once we add this on the side. So we've got this side repaired. This side I'll finish off camera because I figure I'll show you one side of this insert. So you're going to take one of your wedges that you want to insert here, and you're going to take, in this case I have a facing, so I'm going to take one of my facing pieces, and I'm just going to attach them together at the top. I find this to be the easiest way to get this repair done quickly. So widening, repairing and widening. All right. I'm using that 1/2 inch seam allowance that was in this piece. You're just going to stay consistent with whatever the pieces that you're working with. Okay. Now that they're attached, you would press them out with your seam allowance going towards your facing piece. I'm going to be really naughty. I am not going to press. I'm just finger pressing here. And I'm actually going to do a line of understitching along that facing piece, which is basically where you're just going to stitch along and catch your seam allowances underneath that facing piece, just about 1/8 of an inch away from your seam. There we go. See it right there. Okay, now we're going to attach our one piece, which is our facing and our insert, right sides together to one side of the bodice. Well, one side of a 1/2 of the bodice here. I'm having some issues. I've had to stop and cut and redo, so I'm sorry if this is a little choppy, but I'm having some issues with the fabric being so warped that it's distorting as I'm working, and I'm not getting as good of a fit as I wanted. So I probably should have stabilized this fabric first, but such is life. I'm going to try to make this work. In the worst case scenario, if it's really looking wonky, I will have to rip it out and redo, but let's see if we can make it work. There we go. Yeah, it is really warping. I'm hoping this will play nice here. And I'm not sure that it is. I'm going to try and ease this in a little and hope for no puckering, because it is just so distorted. Okay. Let's see if this worked. All right. It's close. It's close enough that it will work. All right. So I am going to press this out. I will come back and stitch. Actually, you know what? I'll press it all out when I'm done so I can just get the stitching done in one fell swoop here. All right. So now, right sides together, your 2/2 of bodice. You're going to use this insert here and match it up with your other raw edge here. I try to sew in the same direction each time. So unfortunately I had to go from bottom to top, which is not normally the way I would work on this, but the warping is just really off. Okay. Cross your fingers for me, guys. And I already feel it. That is way different. You know what? This one I am going to work from top to bottom. See, look, I lied. Because I think this one we have plenty. I was concerned with not having enough, but this side of this dress is smaller. I forgot this is the back side, or front side. Okay. Let's just see here. This is going to be like the worst tutorial ever because nothing's going my way. This is rather the way that it goes when you're just kind of, each vintage piece is going to go together differently. So don't expect it to always ease in the same way every time. And you know, this is actually better for me because I have a bunch of facing pieces over there too. All right. Take two. Alrighty. On the plus side, I'm not going to be risking not having enough here. All right. Per usual, I'm talking too much, but you know. Okay. This is pretty much it. This is the way that I enlarge my dresses. I mean, I'm going to have to put back together my facing piece and finish up these edges in here as well, bringing them together. But, oh, I still have to show you how to loosen it. But there we go. Now we have this insert, and you know what? It really does all seem to tie together, and it may end up being a very slimming look once I press this out. Now all that's left to do, and the way that I like to do mine is, this one I love, it's a double pleat. So what I'm going to try to do, and if you could see, these double pleats are where they basically have two pleats in one. So there's one pleat on top and one pleat underneath, and then your, you know, regular fabric. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm simply going to let out the middle pleat. Well, middle pleat or top pleat, one of the pleats. I'm going to play around with it, but that way I can still have a pleat there, hopefully, and then line it up. So you just work it in like that. I hope that makes sense. I may try, I really hope that made sense for you guys. I am still so mad that I lost the video with the very easy to see dress repair, but, or widening, but, and I am babbling today. I am really sorry. It is late. It's been a long day, but yeah, this is how I do my inserts. I hope it helps. Thanks for watching.